World of Forever from Metal Knights on WildlifeRadio.com, the title track of their upcoming CD. Tell us about that song. Is there anything behind it, or?
Yeah, well, it was just, we had a song that one of our guitar players, Billy King, brought to us, and we really dug the vibe of it, and we started listening to it, and we were thinking, we presented it to Craig Goldie, who was producing us, and we were like, this is a really got a cool vibe, and the only thing is it was a little dated. It had some real 80s sound to it. So we started to go into a rewrite mode and started rewriting, and then ended up actually axing all the old lyrics. And really? Craig just basically said, Razor, go in the office here at the studio, shut the door, and just zone out and start writing something mystical. Go someplace, find your headspace and go someplace weird. And that's what I did. And so I kind of came up with this idea of, what if there was this, is it the world? It's kind of got a dual meaning, and hopefully people will get that from the lyrics. But it's kind of like, the world we're in today. We're doing so much damage to it and all this other stuff, and we think it's going to live forever,
Yeah.
And, there's so much going on right now that could destroy this planet. And then at the same time, I started to think about, well, what if it was like a dream? What if you were in a dream and you were stuck in this real mystical, magical place, and, you thought you were going to live forever, and this was the place to go, through dreaming and astral projection and all this other stuff. If you could make it into this place, then, not necessarily heaven, but just a world that just kept going on and everything was, trippy and you never died.
Yeah.
So it was kind of had a dual meaning to it, and I wanted to kind of include those two ideas into that lyrically. And so I just kept writing the lyrics and showing them to Craig, and, he just kept pushing me and saying, you're on the right track, you're on the right track. And before I knew it, we had the song, and none of us, I think, ever thought it was going to become the title track. And then, once we had it mixed and everything, we had a meeting, and Craig said, I think this is going to be the title track. He said,
cool.
I think this is a great name for an album, and I think it's it's a strong song. So we went with that.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely.
kind of the story behind that. And then Craig actually played the lead solo on that. He actually wanted to rip that solo on there, and he did a phenomenal job. I mean, when we listen back to it, it's just like, holy cow, no wonder the guy plays with Dio. It's just,
Nice.
There's some fast finger stuff going on there.
Yeah, you can definitely hear it. I really like it a lot. Okay, the new album, of course, World of Forever. What's the update on that? Tell us a little bit about it, how far along you are.
Our management company and our manager, Tammy Hunt, is actually in negotiations right now with a label. And we've been in talks with other labels as well, but this is one that we're very interested in. And hopefully, they've been chatting, and I believe they have something already kind of set up. There would be worldwide distribution, and we'd be signed to the label, and then the album can be released. And we're just kind of waiting right now for the contract to get here and do the signing, and then hopefully we'll get a release date pretty soon after that. So hopefully it won't be too long.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have gone out and released this on our own, but the thing that, we kind of understand things because we've worked with Craig Goldie for so long in his Destiny Bridge program. We really learned kind of a lot about the record industry and the music business in a really short period of time.
Right.
And learned a lot of the backroom dealings and how things go on and how the record companies work and the labels work. And, we kind of understand things, I think, on a different level in that we did have that experience of working with Craig.
Cool.
And, the record labels, as much as people are turning towards the whole indie thing and let's put it out ourselves and everything like that, which is great. I mean, I think it's a great thing for music, and it's definitely needed at this time. But I think there's still a need for labels. Oh, and, you know, especially for a band like us that wants to get the music out there and do touring and go around, and, you know, we get asked to play all over the world, and, you know, that's something we really look forward to doing. So in order to make that happen, we feel that we definitely need a label, and we need the worldwide distribution, but it's an exciting time for us, and we're just kind of sitting here on our hands. You know, everything's done, ready to go. We're just waiting for the contracts to come in, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, must be nerve-wracking just waiting for that phone to ring to say it's done.
Yeah, that's true.
Every time it rings, you're like, please, oh, hey, Mom, you know.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the whole album. It's going to be really cool. And as far as a stage show, now, your imagery on your MySpace page and your website is like the medieval knights and shining armor type thing. And growing up, I remember a band like Manowar who had sort of the same imagery, but of course they went out on stage in cod pieces and whatnot.
Yeah, and loincloths.
Yeah, loincloths, cod pieces, little leather stuff all over them. It's kind of like a bondage show.
Yeah.
But as far as Metal Nights go, are you guys, your live stage show, are you guys a meat and potatoes rock band, just let the music do the talking, or do you have a lot of theatrics on your stage show, medieval theme and all, that sort of thing?
Well, there's a lot of talk about how we're going to progress with the stage show, and I think, you know, we have a for lack of a better word, an MTV-style video coming that is being shot in high def and going to be done very, very big production-wise. And we'd like to incorporate some of the visual elements, you know, the medieval knights and things like that, into it and do some effects work and stuff like that. And if there's a way to incorporate some of those type of things into a stage show, that would be great. But as far as seeing, you know, 6 guys walk out on stage in night gear, I don't think you're going to ever see that. You know, you know, we're leather jacket, black, you know, wearing guys. You know, we come out, we try to look as presentable as possible and just let the music talk and give a good show. Yeah. You know, and he's banging their heads.
Absolutely. That's all you can ask for. You see response from the fans. That's really what it's
right.
about.
You know, it's a total thing where you're living off of the energy from the audience. You know, it's I think Rudy Sarzo once said, you know, it's like being an energy vampire. You know, and I think that's a good way to put it.
Absolutely. So, we talked earlier also, at a point in your life, you had quite a life-changing experience. Care to talk about that a bit?
Sure, no problem. Yeah, in 1995, I was diagnosed with a chronic form of hepatitis C. I had been in a head-on car crash back in the mid-'80s, and I received a few blood transfusions. It was a pretty bad accident, and I was fine, you know, for 10, 11 years. Everything seemed normal to me after I got better after the accident, and I went into to a routine physical in 95, and they did some blood work, and they called me back, and they said they thought they had made a mistake, and it turned out where they hadn't made a mistake. I did have something new that was new at that point, and it was classified as hepatitis C. At that time, there wasn't really a lot of heavy information on it.
Right.
And about 6 months later, I found out that I went and saw a liver specialist, and he basically said, you know, you got 15 years to live.